Good afternoon. How are you today? Well, it's in the 40s, but it doesn't feel that bad. And we have some sun with clouds. And it's got no wind today, so there we are. I have had a chance to look a little more carefully at the gag that we might gag on, and I'll tell you why. The court, it seems to me, defers to the image of the office of president and ignores the actual litigant standing before the court, who is, by all accounts, a criminal and evil. And we wait upon a declaration by our courts to make the finding we've all already made, that this man is a menace to America, and that it is critically important that we treat him as he is, for who he is, and what imminent danger he presents to our country. In history, when wannabe dictators are treated differently, those democracies pay highly for that tolerance. And it's no mistake that democracies are more tender in the contact sport that is politics. But when you're put on notice over years who Trump is, you have to stop and treat it appropriately based on what you know. So the Court of Appeals approved a gag, but it allowed some attacks. Now, it said, well, we're concerned about other lawyers, we're concerned about court staff and family members and so on. But the most significant one that bothered me was the carve-out for Jack Smith. That Jack Smith is not, quote, protected? Really? Is that, do I understand that correctly? And there was some remark at the oral argument by a judge that having the experience he had a thick skin. Well, not thick enough to stop a bullet. And who are these people making such judgments? In other words, we'll protect the court, but you, Jack Smith, you're on your own. Now, when I was a prosecutor in New York in 1979, Judge Wood was killed. Judge Wood was known as Maximum John, had prosecuted a bunch of narcotics folks in that area. There had been motions to remove him from a case, and he was standing in a parking lot that was considered upper scale, and somebody came up and shot him in the back. Now, the mob in New York used to walk up behind a person with a .22, doesn't make a lot of noise, place it at the base of the skull, shoot once, drop the gun, walk away. By the time everybody sorted it out, the killer, the assassin, was gone, and the person was dead on the ground. In fact, one evening, there was a former state prosecutor who'd become what they call a mob lawyer, and he decided to cooperate. I wasn't working the case, but I did see him that evening, and we all kind of talked for a few minutes. He went out, and the story is he was walking through Little Italy when he was shot. Now, in 1979, a prosecutor that I knew, Jim Kerr, Kerr, he was handling narcotics cases there. And one day, he was shot at in his car. There were .30 caliber bullets, and they were fired into the car, but he did live, although he had minor injuries. When we were both getting awards for our contributions to law enforcement at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., he was there. And I told him, joking, I don't know if he'd remember it, but I'm sure there were other remarks to him. I said to him, it's really not right that you should get the same award I'm getting, because mine's for proficiency in the law. You should get something like a battle medal. So he was a great lawyer. They didn't kill him, but they killed Judge Wood. When a judge makes fun of how thick someone's skin is, they don't understand what's going on in the real world. And they don't appreciate all that we do know about the coercive tactics of Trump. So, I think the gag order, I'm sure it'll be tested, and hopefully we'll get through this without the worst things happening. There's a couple of other matters that I think are distressing. Another example of Texas mayhem is the case of Kate Cox, who she's pregnant, and if the child is born, will only live a few days. And there are questions about her health should she go to term. And a judge said that she could have the abortion. And now the state is delaying that, seeking to have the court overturn the lower court. There are some people that should be hit in the face with a 2x4. And the Attorney General in Texas is one of them. And the people of the state should not have to leave the state. They have their right to be let alone, their right of privacy, the dominion over a woman's body to be protected. This nation is just struggling to find its way, and Texas is not part of that search. It's terrible. Another one that's interesting is Taylor Swift, who's a fabulous entertainer, has decided to take some of her platform, if you will, and her energy and her funding, and to do things as a citizen to make a difference in our politics. She's rightfully on Time covers, and it's unusual, but it's encouraging. And I think she's probably I know she's encouraged others to be active because of it. So that's something that's exciting. Of course, the mind-blown MAGA nuts are all over this, and they're very upset that she should be on the cover of Time. Perhaps they'd like to have Hitler on the cover again. After all, they do have their own Il Duce. I was careful how I said that. You guys can say it any other way you want. The final thing, and I don't pretend to know enough, but I know this much. Having inconsistent positions is a hard way to lead, okay? We are encouraging Israel to go forward with a ceasefire because we're concerned about a variety of things, including the whole mess getting out of hand with Iran or Lebanon or wherever. But there's something disappointing that in the UN we should be the vote vetoing a resolution to seek a ceasefire in the Middle East. Now, spokespersons for our government are saying things like, well, down the road, that ceasefire will be approved. Well, I don't know what that means. It feels like it means we are going to kill every last person in Gaza, presume they're Hamas, even if we can't show they're a combatant, and then we'll be for a ceasefire. Now, yes, that's cynical, but that's as much as what Netanyahu's been saying. So, I have concerns not only for those who will end up killed, who need not be killed, who are not combatants, who are women and children and men that have nothing to do with the battle, but there it is. And I am concerned about this becoming more than it is. Larger, serious. It is serious now, but it's going to become more serious. And what we've inflamed across the world is the belief that just discussing this very difficult and dangerous issue is a sign of a bias in one direction or another. The talk of a ceasefire, some would interpret as favoring Hamas, but a ceasefire is about, in modern times, in war, protecting the citizens, the ones who aren't in the turrets fighting war as it originally was or is now. So those are a couple of the stories. We just can't nail it down, you know? Can't nail down a gag order. Can't save a woman from risking her health. And the irony about Kate Cox is that she's very pro-life. She's had children before. Her and her husband want to have additional children. She mourns the loss of this child. And so it's not like somebody's casting aside the responsibility of being a parent. It's a question of survival. If the child is delivered, the medical knowledge is the child will not live. So what are we going to do about the mother? We should save her. As a youngster at Fordham Prep, on the bus going back and forth, I read a book, The Cardinal. I'm blocking on the author. It's a beautifully written book. But it's about, a lot of it's about the political side of being a priest, but being political within the church. And he who would be a cardinal has a sister who has an abortion, who considers an abortion, but is advised by her brother not to have one, and she dies. And the description is, well, captivating. I mean, I don't remember, I said 400 pages or something, but I just couldn't get through it quick enough. This is in my high school years. So, why don't these people have any values? They're sort of like evil robots. No soul, no heart, mechanical, no feelings, entirely self-absorbed, prepared to do anything for themselves, but not a thing for others. These people have to be treated for who and what they are. And we have to start dealing with more truth and stop trimming the sail on the truth that we modify, because we just don't want to go that far. And how far should we go to protect a man, Jack Smith, who literally is putting his life on the line to prosecute one of the greatest criminals in political history since our revolution? And they talk about him having a thick skin. They don't even take realistically the threats, the physical threats, the coercion. I don't know. My assistant, Patricia Hall, had a sign by her desk that always says, "You can't fix stupid." But these people are dangerous in their stupidity and their ignorance, and can't we all get along and all this bullshit. If we don't start acting like adults about this stuff, we're going to find ourselves being treated like children in political camps where they inquire into our patriotic sincerity. So, Is that possible? It is possible. Is it realistic? If we do nothing, it's more than realistic. It's an imminent danger. So I call to you from my cathedral of trees, and I hope to talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.